Hello and welcome to Zero Cool Gaming and my new channel, where I'll be talking about the games that I've played throughout the years and the news. This is a weekend. Every weekend I will be starting out by doing a review of one game, and then on Sundays I'll do a review of an anime, and then Monday through Friday I'll cover a news report of interest to me. So to start, the first game that I will be covering is a game that I played years ago called Pool of Radiance: Ruins of Mithranor. The story's pretty basic. It's about a lady, she's a sorceress, who had used her abilities to seize control of a place called the Mithril. It's an ancient type of magic that once protected a long abandoned elven city called Mithranor. Her and her cult intend to take over the entire area and essentially turn everyone into a bunch of undead. The game itself is basically your four heroes to start, sent to Mithranor to eliminate the Pool of Radiance. The Pool of Radiance was created by a dragon and the sorceress, and through the power of the Mithril. These four travelers, they gotta go all across Mithranor, from the dungeons below the city to the city itself, the catacombs, all in an effort to stop the Pool of Radiance, which is currently spreading out from Mithranor, turning other cities into cities of undead. In fact, that's why you end up in this situation. The start of the game is a pool of radiance appearing in the what looks like the dungeons of a city and turning the guards into undead. Now, this game did not receive the best reviews online. And some people say that, there's a lot of different reasons for that. But we'll go ahead and go through what others have stated about this game, and I'll give you my opinions. The sales weren't very good on it. Like I said, the reviews were also not very, very good. They say that it was plagued with bugs. There are places where you can get stuck in walls and stuff like that. I wouldn't say it was plagued with bugs, but there are a few places where you may have to restart your game a few times. Not the whole game, but go back to a save spot before that point and replay that area. Sometimes you gotta come into an area from a different direction because the game doesn't like the direction you came from. So there are bugs, but I wouldn't say that it was plagued with bugs. The main complaint was that the game was boring. It was intended for, I guess, large player groups, and I guess that never really took off because the multiplayer wasn't very good as well. And some of the infinite and confusing dungeons, they are large. I wouldn't say they're confusing, there's a way to fix that. We'll talk about that. And only one game style. Yes and no, but it's D&D, so that should be obvious. But basically they just say that it was a lackluster game. Okay. Well, the game does feature painted backgrounds like those in other BioWare games. Of course, like I said, the D&D engine. Um, the background graphics aren't nearly as detailed or interesting as those in other games. The 3T character and monster graphics look great. However, the spell effects and other effects are, uh, yeah, they're not the best. Um, the music and sound effects they say were pretty decent. Some of the music in the game is very similar in quality and style to the melodies provided in other SSI games. Uh, the game is very difficult at the beginning. I will agree with that. I have literally died in the first battle. I've died in the second battle. I've died in the third battle, the fourth, and fifth. Any of the beginning battles can wipe out your entire team if you just get bad rolls, which can be frustrating for a new player. I've never had it to the point where I would start a game, have my team wiped out, then start another game, and the same thing happen. But I have started this game probably 6 or 7 times throughout my life. Um, and played through a good portion of it. Let me rephrase that. But as far as the very beginning of the game, I've probably played the very beginning of the game probably 10 times because, yeah, I've been wiped out rather quickly. And it's just the way that it is in the beginning. All of your battles are very close, even if you do win them. So, yeah, with bad rolls, you will lose those battles and even get your entire team wiped out as a result. They say that, yeah, in the beginning it only consists of 4 characters, but once your characters have gained a couple of levels, some more magical equipment, the game becomes much easier and more playable, and that is very true. And it doesn't take long to move up a couple of levels. The core combat can be enjoyable and gets more interesting as the levels go up because you gain access to greater spells. Yet if you're just looking for a dungeon crawler to hack and slash your way through and aren't looking for a deeper RPG, you're unlikely to be entirely satisfied with Ruins of Mithranor. Uh, it is kind of a dungeon crawl. I will absolutely agree with that. It is mostly dungeon, actually. I think there's only 2 above ground sections, and then you have a 5-story dungeon and a 4-story dungeon before you get to before you get to the end of the game, which is kind of like a dungeon. It's a castle dungeon. You kind of go through, I think it's 3 levels of a castle. If they're not very big levels. It's just like big army battles. Um, and they say the game just doesn't measure up to other games of its like. There is the occasional diamond in the rough. The beginning of the game is incredibly promising because of how nice it looks on the outside. The outside levels do look really nice. They're well designed, well created. But then you enter the dungeons and everything becomes very repetitive, and that is true. It's not so hard that you can't tell where you're at or where you're going though. There are, like signs on the floor, scrapes on the floor. There's particular flags and items placed all over the dungeons to help you remember where you're at. And the game also provides you these little tags in the map section. And if you use those tags right from the beginning of the game to mark everything that you don't have access to, like if you run on a chest and you don't have the key for it, drop a flag. If you run into a door and you don't know the word of power to open it, drop a flag. Whenever you find staircases, drop a flag and mark where that staircase actually goes, because some staircases will take you up 2 levels and some staircases will take you down 3 levels. They don't necessarily just go up to the next level or down to the next level. So it can make traversing the dungeons, the main dungeon, the first 5-level dungeon, rather difficult if you don't have all that labeled and marked out. The game also, as you're playing, it's kind of a linear game, and how it makes it linear is by putting battles between areas that are of higher level that you can't get past until you're at a level capable of handling the area beyond it. Which means that pretty early on, even in the dungeon, if you take the wrong direction because you're not following what the quest has asked you to do, which you have like 3 directions you can go, you will relatively quickly, within like 3 or 4 battles, you'll run into a battle that just wipes out your entire team. It's because you're not supposed to be going up there until you're like 3 or 4 levels higher than you currently are. And it does this repeatedly. It's how it'll basically block off a section of the dungeon that you have to come back to it later after you've leveled up. So it's kind of linear and kind of not, but it forces you to go on a linear path because of that. And what I do is when I run into those, I call them armies, because when you first run into them, it might as well be. I'll drop a tag that says army here, and then I'll know I need to come back when I've leveled up a couple levels. These guys say, turn it off, it's not worth the headache. When you quit out of frustration, it's already gotten too bad. And I can kind of understand that with the beginning, because that can be frustrating for a new player to have your entire team wiped out rather quickly. But all in all, I found the game enjoyable. Mainly because it's well designed for what it is. You don't have to grind anywhere in the game. If you go through the entire dungeon and you wipe out everything on every level, in the order that you're supposed to, you'll level up properly. You will be at a high enough level by the end of the game to defeat the game. And if you complete all the side quests, you'll be a couple of levels higher than you need to be to defeat the game. That's, to me, good game design. There are roaming monsters in this game, so after you wipe out an entire area, you may occasionally run across a roaming battle. But they're not so prevalent that it becomes annoying. And in fact, they're usually always in the same spot, so you know if there's a way to go around that area, you just go around it and you can avoid them altogether. And that's pretty much everything that they have to say about the game, that other people say about the game. Me personally, I truly enjoyed it. I still do enjoy the game. I don't see anything wrong with this design. Yes, I think that the beginning of it can be a little frustrating, but if you're capable of getting past that and you can get your first couple of levels, you'll find the rest of the game is actually pretty easy. Okay. Thank you, and have a good day.